Okay, so it is moving day again today. We try to move them once a week as much as possible, and the cows are very excited. They know the routine. They know that as soon as they see the gator, it's either water or they're being moved. So they're very vocal. So they're keen to move so that they can get better grass. Exactly, that's what you're saying, isn't it, mate? Yeah. We have a visitor in with them as well at the moment. So we've got JB. So he's coming to service the girls, and he came over last year and serviced the girls, and we had 2 calves by JB. Unfortunately, the third one was from next door's when she hopped the fence.
It doesn't take long to put the Kiwi electric system in place. Roughly 30 minutes using the gator. We do have carry pack, but it's quite cumbersome and heavy with all the reel posts, and we are not getting any younger. Andy stops every 10 metres whilst I put in the posts, and then at every corner he drives in a star picket post. The cows are super excited. But before they can move, we need to fix up their water system and move the electric energizer. Not that they really need it. It has been turned off since we came out to move the Kiwi Tech electric fence.
Their water system's now filling up, and you can see that we've got a float inside, and so when it gets to the desired height, it shuts the water off. And so we can just physically move our water around from paddock to paddock to make it easier. We are thinking about doing differently and having water stations, but that might be a future project. But this actually really works. It's quite good and easy, and it was just an old plastic tank that was left here, and we recycled it along with a fire water tractor. And if you want to see the making of that, you have to go and click on the link below and you will see that build. Alright, so we just put the gator between the 2 fences, only just as a precaution. To be fair, they are really easy to move. But JB's in the pack. Now he remembers the fence from last year, so he knows it hurts.
And as you can see, we don't need to convince them to move.
That was easy. Because they actually are really easy and placid animals to train to move around, we can actually move them from one end of the paddock to the other without actually having the fences in the way. They just follow, especially if you've got silage or lucerne in the back of the truck. So they're actually really easy to move. They are really good cows. So they're Chevrolet Cross Angus. If you're interested in thinking about what kind of cows you want on your farm. And they're really lovely. They're lovely placid. I think it helps so that they were brought up that way, moved around by hand and in this way. So that really does help and makes a difference to their temperament. All right, now we put this fence up, we've got to take the old one down.
We've adapted our Kiwi Tech system to allow the use of an electric drill rather than using the handle. Andy created a bracket on the 3D printer to hold the wire spools in place, allowing us to wind the line in much quicker. Another job we need to do is pull the Sifton that's growing on the farm.
So unfortunately, we've been invaded by the pigs. And I think if I remember in my previous episodes, we talked about how the neighbouring farm has pigs. They don't actually have pigs, they're wild pigs. You can see a great trotter print. So we know that it's coming in, well, the neighbours had pigs issue and they don't live there, so they can't really control them. It's a bit hard. They're wild, so it's not something you can control. But we know that it's roughly about 3 or 4 days because we always check the perimeter of the fence on a regular basis. But 3 or 4 days ago, we had a massive storm and we noticed that the cows got out, and that's unusual for them. They always comply to the fence. They don't normally get out. They're really good with the electric fence. But this day it did go out, and Andy said, oh no, it must be the storm. But they've been through storms before, so we know it couldn't have been that so much. So we think it's the pigs, but not so much the pigs so much. Yes, they probably would have pushed the boundaries, and the cows might have got spooked by the pigs running around. But I think it's also the neighbouring dogs. Down the bottom, down there, I know that they get people in to hunt the pigs. Now that's a controversial thing. Yes, I agree that the pigs need to be controlled. I'm not sure I like the idea of the dogs chasing and ripping the pigs to pieces, but that's each to their own. That's one thing. I get it that it needs to be dealt with, and dogs probably the easiest way of dealing with it. Ethically, I don't know, but anyway, that's irrelevant. And we are entitled to kill the pigs ourselves. We're allowed to do that on our land, but these dogs come onto our land, and I think when the pigs were in here, or the pigs were either chased in, or they came in naturally and the dogs came in and chased them to bring them out, I think the dogs then jumped the fence. And now that becomes a controversial thing for us, because they're putting our animals at risk because they're chasing our animals, and then our animals could get hurt from jumping the fence or whatever it is to try and escape the dog, or the dog might even chase the cows because of the little calves. So that becomes an issue for us. So what do you do? It's a hard line. Do you do the nice thing and tell the owners gently, please don't let your dogs come in our farm, which we have done? Do you then write an official letter and make it official thing about not having the dogs on your farm, so that they then will be fined? Or do you put it to the point where the dogs don't come back? Now, legally we're allowed to do that. For me, that's a really hard one, because if Maggie ever got out, I'd obviously be gutted if something happened to her, but then I'd understand and respect that person who dealt with that issue in that way, purely because I know that how much effort and time people go into raising their animals, but not only that, how much money it goes if you damage an animal. I get it. And if I'm not in total control of my dog, and my dog gets out and hurts something, I'd be mortified. And I know Maggie's not an angel. I know she will chase the animals. So we are very vigilant about not ever letting her out. And we've had words with our other neighbours on the other side, who has cows and stuff. And we said, look, if she ever does that, don't worry about it. Do the right thing. And he knows what that means. I don't think he would. He's a bit of a softie, really. Shh, don't tell anyone. But anyway, for us, that is an issue. We don't know what to do. Put the comments down below what you would do. If it was your farm, what would you do if you know that the dogs are in and they're starting to chase your cattle? One thing we do need to do is finish and fix the fences up, though. Again, if you ever want to think about having a farm, really consider the fencing, because we've repaired this fence 3 times now in the space of a year or so. So unless you don't like fencing, don't buy a farm, because you really spend a lot of time fixing it or replacing it, because we replaced all the back, and all the wombats pulled up, or pigs, whichever it is, have pulled up the fence already and dug underneath. It is a constant battle trying to fix the fencing, and I don't know if there is a real answer to it, really, unfortunately. There is a choice. We could put an electric wire around the hot wire all the way around the farm, but that's not always guaranteed. But that is a thought. If we can't control the wombats and the pigs mainly, wombats tend to just go off. They'll dig their burrow and that's it, and they'll stay there. They don't tend to really dig a lot of mess. They just go off and forage, because they eat vegetables, I think they eat the grass and stuff. So they're not too big a deal. I'm not too worried about those, apart from the fact that they keep digging under the fence. If they stayed where they're in this paddock and that was it, I wouldn't be so bothered. It's the pigs. The pigs make absolute mess, unfortunately. So if we can't control them, then we might have to consider a hot wire, which around 90 acres is a huge thing, because it's finding the battery and the energizer to power that all the time is not going to be easy, especially when you've got like overcast days like today, and you get several days of overcast days. So that becomes a bit of an issue with keeping the battery topped up with power. So anyway, a dilemma we have to fix, unfortunately. Alright, we're going to continue pulling up this Sifton, but we actually have done quite a lot of this area already. It does make a difference using the tractor, it's got to be said. So we're just going to clear just this area, and we'll do all over there another time when we get that far. But we're trying to clear this so that when the cows come through, they've got they don't have the Sifton to deal with.
Sifton bush is an aggressive invasive weed that can grow up to 3 meters tall and features narrow curry scented leaves with clusters of brownish red flowers. It thrives in poor soil and has been overgrazed or cleared farmland, and is prevalent in our area. It competes with sown pastures and is generally unpalatable to the livestock, and if there's nothing else to eat, could potentially cause health issues, making it an agricultural pest.
Well, it's amazing how much we've done already. Okay, another load. I think this is our 4th load. The neighbouring farm, they have terrible problem with Sifton. All the way down to the front of their farm, it was literally smothered, and they got some guy in to clear it for them, and he had a mulcher. It was fantastic. We watched him do it, make some absolute mess. But he walked a treat, and within 4 hours he'd cleared all the front paddock, and it mulched the whole lot. That was the only downside, it mulched it all, so it just spread the seed. And then because it was a windy day, and because it just blew everything, it sort of blew over here a bit, which is, you know, part of the course. Unfortunately, that's the downside. You see, it spreads from farm to farm. So if we don't clear our side, then unfortunately it is going to go to next door in their side. And they don't want it any more than we want it. So we're trying to do the right thing by getting rid of it so that it doesn't affect our neighbours as well. But this mulcher that came in, he couldn't do the whole 100 acres. He could only do I think it was probably only quarter of it. It cost him $4,000, $4,000. That's a ridiculous amount of money. So even though this is time consuming and it's a killer on your back trying to pull them up, we are saving ourselves $4,000, because it took them, I think, 2 days to do their quarter. So what's that, 25 acres? And yeah, 25 acres roughly, and $4,000. So we are saving ourselves $4,000. That's what I keep telling myself every time I pull one up. We're saving money. But anyway, so that is the dilemma. And now, when we first bought this farm, we didn't have any Sifton. Partly because the previous owner, he's not a farmer, he liked horses. He used to slash this all the time. One of the challenges we need to do, we need to be able to keep control of this. The reason why we have Sifton is because of it's a poor quality of the soil. Now, there are controversial things. It's not controversial. There are different ways of treating Sifton. You can go around the route of poison, and you throw down the chemicals and it kills the plant, and doesn't really get totally rid of it, because at some point it spreads anyway. It's got to die off first. So anyway, but you can poison it. We don't want to do that, because obviously we're trying to keep as many chemicals off the ground as possible, because obviously the cows come in there, and so do the sheep, and they eat the food. There is that trace element of chemicals that still could be residual and in the ground. They'll eat that, consume it. We obviously then eat the animals, so therefore we are consuming the chemicals too. So we obviously don't want to go through that route. Slashing, we did slash them, and that is what we started doing. It doesn't seem to work. You're left with a stump, or sometimes it just flattens them. It doesn't really take them, and then they carry on and they spread. So we found that pulling them up really does make a difference. Now, we down the bottom of the farm, we cleared that bit, and from the bottom, because it was really densely thick with Sifton, and it rained one day, well, for a few days actually, I think it was, and we went in there and we pulled up as much Sifton as possible and put it in the back of in the trailer, took it out, and then we burnt it when we were allowed to, and that hasn't grown back, or at least it hasn't grown back in the sense of how much it's grown back here where we slashed it. So we know that pulling it up does work. It doesn't solve the issue. It still will have some sprouts come up. So I mean, you could see that when I was looking earlier, you could see the tiny little seedlings already starting to come up. It's just one of those things. It is a never-ending job that you've got to keep on top of, and as soon as we can control the quality of the soil, and we get a better crop growing, then that will stop the Sifton coming up. But we haven't got to that stage yet. But the soil is so much better. We have noticed that when we were pulling the Sifton up, when you could see the soil, it is huge difference compared to when we first moved here. So it is amazing how what we're doing so far with the rotations is working with the soil quality. It doesn't look it really when you look at it, but it is better. And in some places where I'll try and put the video over the camera of the footage of how when we first moved in, what the ground looked like originally when we first moved in. A lot of it was sparse, there was no grass, it was just dirt, and it's amazing how much has grown back already. The problem with horses, and if you decide to buy a farm and you want and the previous owners have got horses on their land, they do destroy the soil, because it gets trodden and it becomes hard and compact, and it makes it harder to bring life back into it. So the chickens have done an absolute amazing job at the front, because the front was destroyed. It was solid. It was quite heartbreaking how bad it was, but we knew that we could bring it back, and we literally got the chickens out, and the chickens just go around and they scratch it up to the point where it won't do damage, but they are building the soil up, and so that they can so that the grass seed will carry on. And yeah, there's always someone wants a bit of limelight. Are you done?
I think so.
Is it time for tea?
It is tea time.
No, I agree. I know, you've done a great job whilst I've been sat chatting with my mates here.
Someone's got this.
Yeah, right, whatever. Sitting on your tractor. It's hard work sitting on the tractor, isn't it?
You either get skills and then you haven't got to do a lot of labouring, or you just end up labouring. I'm afraid you're
That's right. Get paid shit like a labourer as well. All right.
Oh,
Yeah, what? Have you lost something?
oh no, my phone's over there.
That would have been funny.
You going back?
So, yeah. Well, should we pick this up first?
We won't get it on
That is true. Okay, we'll go and dump that back. Okay, we'll go and get a cup of tea. We'll catch you later.
Until next time.
Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe and share.